if you want to take it away, explain how this is all going to work. We are live streaming.
Sure thing. So we're kind of, unlike some of the other UC sessions we've had, which existed in a strange YouTube vacuum, this is truly interactive. This is our stab at a traditional roundtable discussion, giving folks, the table essentially to bring their really ingenious workflows, their concerns, their questions, just like a wide open brainstorming session. I'm here to help steer the conversation and of course answer PCC related questions. We do have a bit of a slide deck, but it's nothing superficial. It's more just talking points that we're going to touch base on or hopefully get through based on some of the discussions we had before getting this all together. Hi, Dr. Gruen.
Hey there, Kate.
I saw, was that your child getting you all hooked up for the meeting earlier?
Oh yeah, he's like, no, I can't give you a Zoom background.
Well, that can be our first lesson of the day. Next to where it says stop video, there's a little arrow pointing upwards.
Oh yeah, no, he tried and he's like, no, your lighting's not right.
What? Okay, because there's really fun stuff like I'm in Paris. Everything's fine.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, whoa. Oh my God, hold on 1 minute. My cat just got locked in here. Yeah.
The joys of a virtual users conference. So speaking of, I'm over on my workstation frantically shutting down absolutely everything except this Zoom session so that I can share that slide deck with you all.
You want to say hi?
Hey, Dr. Kaplan, nice background.
How you like
I'm just getting started. This is just background number 1. I've got a whole rotation for this session.
Fantastic.
I had to look up the Office references, I'll be honest.
Oh, come on.
This is one of my go-tos for PCC meetings, being in a forest.
All right, I got to get a background.
So save any image, dear. But yeah, you'd probably want to sit in front of that window. But if you're not on a laptop, that will be tricky.
Oh, yeah, that's stupid window. Okay.
I mean, we got this one ready to go too. So,
Love it.
Okay. That is disturbing.
Missing it.
Only for me, though.
We're working out of my very messy home office here.
Yeah, that's why I put up the Parisian background so no one has to see the mountains of clean laundry I haven't put away yet.
Oh, forget home office, Jan. I am outside. We just had a cold front come through last night, and it is just the most gorgeous it has been in weeks here.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good idea. I'm going outside.
You have the backyard to do it too.
Come with me.
All right, so let's see.
Then we can have some. Oh, we like that one.
All right, Jan, I have the slide deck up, but it appears you do as well. Do you want to hand it over to me?
I do not. I stopped sharing.
Okay, done. Present. I work in software. There we go.
So how many people, is this just going to be like a love fest with us all, or?
Oh, hold on. I gotta pop off for a moment. I'll be right back.
So in terms of the love fest, let me see.
It absolutely can be a love fest. If others get something out of it, all the better. But you guys were the impetus for this, and you all had some amazing ideas flowing via email.
Yeah. I'd love to be able to pick your brains.
I'm trying to.
We are loving the update. The ability to text parents has been unbelievable.
Oh, good.
So
we're getting them to finish their chattest and all their other stuff.
And wear a mask. I just had somebody show up and said, "Why do I need a mask?" I said, "You need a mask."
Oh, for heaven's sake!
No, like the mask where it's like hanging down. Like I swear, it looks like they made them out of like diapers or something, and it's dripping below their chin.
Yeah, and they're
Well,
wearing
no, it's not a
fantastic
requirement
necklace
anywhere
around the
else. It's
forehead.
like, well, it's a requirement here.
You probably can't see me that well.
Just checking with you all, as I'm not often one doing screen sharing via Zoom. Are you seeing the Super Users Roundtable starring you?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic.
It's on there.
And I'm going to go analog for my notes. It would be fun if you guys did a most creative mask contest. That would encourage parents and kids to wear them.
I have a homemade one being made for me that just has pictures of viruses on it.
Ooh.
I've got a whole bunch of fabric that I've ordered from Spoonflower that's taking forever, but I've got like all kinds of funky.
Yeah, this one is my personal favorite, and it's there's a company in Vermont called Bees Wrap, and they make organic cotton reusable food wraps using beeswax. So it's got like the little honeycomb patterns on it and such. So there are a lot of these going around.
Oh, here, this is the background. So my 21-year-old who is bored to tears has tie-dyed absolutely everything white in my house.
Fantastic.
Here's the tie-dye sheet.
That's out on your patio, on your back?
She had a social distance 21-year birthday celebration with a few friends, and so they used that for their Insta background.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
very sweet.
So it's, yeah, we've got, that's my backyard. Yep.
All right, welcome, Dr. Branco. How are you doing?
Where are you at?
All right, so we can go ahead and get started. We've got enough supers on board now. Again, this is a Super Users Roundtable starring you all, and I'm here really just to help facilitate the conversation if or as needed, answer any PCC questions, and I have a simple slide deck of some points that we brought up prior to this meeting. You can view this on YouTube as well, or you can join the meeting to become part of the discussion. A little bit of a warning, this is all being recorded. So I should definitely start snorting. So some of the conversation topics we brought up were uses for the new Snap Text expander that is incorporated to the EHR, COVID-related protocols and woes, paperless office workflows, portal registration forms, and any other advancements you'd like to see in our software or in your personal workflows. And hopefully this becomes a space of sharing is caring, and we all help each other use the software to the best of its ability based on clever, hacks or super user workflows you and your offices have created. So as this is your time, where would you like to start? Would you like to start with text expansion, as it's the new fun toy you've all been playing with?
I first learned about text expansion from Seth at a user conference several years ago, so he is absolutely one of our experts.
Well, no pressure there at all. Thank you. I asked for the text expander solution. Oh, it must have been at an AAP national meeting a long time ago. And Chip made some suggestions, and so we got going with an independent service called Type It For Me, which works on the Mac.
Yeah.
And now that it's being brought into the EHR, it's absolutely wonderful. The couple of places that I really use this a lot are just simple phrases that I type over and over and over again. And the cool thing about Type It For Me did was that it actually calculated how much time you theoretically save by using all the expansions, and it kept track of that on a running basis. So over the years, it's been hours and hours and hours of typing saved. So simple things such as, like, every time I do a refill of ADD meds, I can just type the word ADD refill, and it prints out a sentence that says I reviewed the chart, reviewed the call, and the prescription was sent by EPCS. Please let the parents know. So just simple things like that. Anytime there's a couple sentences that you use over and over, if you can knock it down to a word to expand to that, it makes it really easy. Starting the phrases with a special key, such as an asterisk or a $sign or whatever, helps a lot, so that you don't accidentally expand stuff when you don't intend to. The other place I use it a lot are for complex series of instructions that I don't want to have to retype, nor do I want to have to remember. So a great example of that would be a lot of people who are on SOPM know about the ivermectin hack for treating using the horse ivermectin paste to treat things. And there's this complicated formula for how you're supposed to mix it and whatnot. So it's a good page-long instruction printed out. And by having a phrase for it, I'm just able to type the single phrase and boom, there's those instructions without having to remember it.
Interesting there, because something like that would bring my mind to an education handout or a form you would have handy if it's that lengthy. But is this something you are putting in the care plan or a message to a patient family?
It can go in lots of places. So most of the time it's going in plan or care plan that's being printed out, or now we're trying to not print as much as possible and just have parents access the information on the portal so that they have those instructions and they're not sitting there trying to type it into their phones or trying to remember what we tell them.
Right.
Jump in if that's okay.
Yes.
So Seth also turned me on to Type It For Me. We use it a lot. I'm going to add to what Seth said to start with a special key. I use the apostrophe at the upper left of my keyboard because it's easy for me to get to, and it's not something that starts words ever. Other folks use the tilde, but use something unusual like that. The other thing is we use it for concussion instructions, to put that into the clinical instructions so that the visit summary has our concussion protocol, or that sort of thing. Just like it's great. I've also, Kate, related to your care plan, we put our action plans. I have a text expander for my sort of standard asthma plans, with and without daily into a medical summary, so that when our nurses get a phone call from parents, they can simply refer to the medical summary, and it's easy for me to keep that updated.
Yeah, I can go ahead, Dr. Sachs.
I like to start with a semicolon because it's under my right pinky, and I'm not going to use a semicolon pretty much anywhere else. And I usually like to have all my phrases start with 3 characters, just as my convention. So, like Seth, said, he might want to have a full sort of very short phrase to expand into a longer phrase. Most of mine, I find 3 characters works. And I also like to use it for words that are difficult to spell. Until the EHR got spell check, I had spelled ophthalmologist wrong my entire career. And so now just a semicolon OP and brings up ophthalmologist, and rheumatologist, which I can spell, but I almost always mistype. So finding words that just a few characters brings up difficult to spell words. Specialists that might have long names that I might not necessarily remember. So besides long phrases, even just short individual words, it can be very handy for.
I'll also use it. And first, by the way, Michael, if you use semicolons more, you could probably spell better. But just one other place I'll use it when I'm not using it built within the built-in referral section is that I'll have sort of customized referral lists. So I've got like all the psychiatrists or psychologists that I refer to, but sometimes I have ones that I only want to refer if they're teens. Sometimes I have ones that I only want to do if they're kids with ADD. So I'll have those with a phrase to expand to so that it's really easy to get the exact list that I want.
I would love to go on record as the first enhancement to a new enhancement. Probably not, but the text expander is awesome. I'm so glad it got brought into the EHR. But Seth, I don't know, Seth and Mike, I don't know how much you use this, but there's functionality within Type It For Me where you can get it to put the date. It can date stamp. And I use that a lot, for example, when I'm reviewing Chattis and I want a date stamp the day that I put in my notes about my Chattis review. And so I have a smart phrase, tilde or apostrophe date, and it automatically comes up with today's dates. That would be super useful to have, just to be able to continue to date stamp notes and phrases.
But are you finding, Dr. Branco, that when you're typing using snap text to complete any free field text in the EHR, once you save that, there should be a date stamp associated with it?
There would be. It depends on
where you're using it.
Okay. Okay. So I have the enhancement request jotted down. So
Right,
I appreciate that.
if you're using it within the text of a note, that's not necessarily going to happen.
Right, like the chart-wide medical history.
Right. The other enhancement that I would love that Type It For Me allows you to do is that Type It For Me is caps agnostic. So the same phrase, whether it's all caps, lower caps, a mix, it doesn't care. It still expands it. But one of the kind of fun things that it does is that if you have one phrase and you do type it in all caps, it'll put the output in all caps. So sometimes I want the information to scream, and sometimes I don't want the information to scream. And just by modifying how you type it, it'll do that for you. Whereas the way this has been set up, you have to, it's case specific.
Okay, so I'm hearing whisper and scream functionality. Noted.
Yeah, and it's the healthy way to scream. So.
Really, I mean it. Fantastic. Curious if any of you have played around with the snap text feature of paragraphs, that you can create a multi-line with line breaks snap text for things such as a patient portal reply or a sick care plan or a history note that you're making an awful lot when it comes to newborns, for example. I'm curious if you all have played with that functionality.
I just created a multi-line, my usual sign off for my portal messages, and it worked well. So yes, but only once.
Well, that's also a really clever note, creating a signature for portal messages using snap text.
Kate, just going back to when somebody had mentioned something about forms, and I'm thinking, would there be a way of creating a generic form where we could use snap text to just expand into or not so much a form, but like information sheets. So we have lots of our information sheets, we have to ask you to keep uploading them to be able to send out. What if we just have a generic form where we could then put in, basically, since we can expand anything, you put in a phrase, it expands into what you want to send across or attach to the portal as a form. And that way we can basically have, we only need one form theoretically to send out, just like one that we fill in.
Really cool.
So that we could push out information as a document, because if we put it just into a portal message, it sometimes gets lost. But if we have a form that we could attach and that they could print off, so you don't have to, we don't have to, and that way we can also make changes on the fly. If we want to change, we have a feature handout and then we want to change something on it, you just change our snap text.
Thank you for clarifying, because you could see where my mind was going. I thought, why isn't this just a portal message? But you're saying it's helpful for them to have an attached document that could be downloaded, printed,
exactly,
emailed, faxed, sent to a school, what have you. Okay, that's a very clever idea.
Our uploaded forms quite a lot now, because we're saying we're not handing out paper, we're trying to be paperless. And if we're doing a telehealth, we're sending a form. But I've got like dozens more that I could theoretically ask you to upload, but there's only so much time everybody has. But if I could just, have one like fillable form that I could push out, I could send them anything.
Right. Well, I'm curious, the signature form we recently worked on for you, Dr. Jen, where it's the choice file where it pops in your signature and there's a header and a footer and a sign off and all that. And there are those two free paragraph fields.
Right.
You could use snap text in those paragraphs.
That would be great.
Yeah. I mean, that's current functionality.
Yeah, because actually, so I was creating a school form today for a child for ADHD accommodations, but our typical form includes like a line about, this child is on medication but still needs accommodations, and this kid is not on medication. So I can't send that form out. I had to ask Chris to recreate the letter, but this way I could just expand whatever I need to say and edit it.
Right. No, and that editing is key.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just out of curiosity, because this kind of goes into some of the other stuff though, where are you storing these forms? Like, know what I mean? Like, are they external to the EHR? Are they within the EHR? I'm just curious.
Oh, ours are within.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the form section. Yep. And so we've uploaded like our ADHD handout.
The reports or?
No, we call our informational handouts forms.
Okay.
And so that we just put them into, that was our workaround for being able to push things out electronically through the portal. We have forms in that forms area, but we also have a lot of our educational handouts in there.
Okay.
As well as the letterhead.
But does that exist as a separate tab on the EHR screen, or I'm just wondering where you access it. That's what I'm curious.
Anywhere within the patient chart, whether it's a charted visit or simply their demographics, and that's also customizable where you want to see the forms button.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the top of our main screen.
Mm-hmm.
Adding this to my to-do list.
Yeah.
Contact your client advocate today.
Yeah. My biggest problem is remembering my snap phrases.
And I think, we have that on the agenda. How do folks remember snaps?
So I think number one, the ones you use over and over and over again, they just it's muscle memory that happens. The ones that you don't necessarily use over and over again, I have to go back and remind myself every once in a while that I had one there, and I'll actually find sometimes I've recreated the same one that I previously had created. So sometimes you just got to go back and look. I know there was a suggestion from somebody on PCC Talk that it would be great if they could be alphabetized in the list.
Yep, we have that enhancement request on the list.
Yeah, so that would be really helpful. But just where you at, just going back and accessing them and looking at them.
I actually have a bunch of snap texts that are numbered. And so the ones that I use a lot, the signing off on my advice nurse calls is apostrophe 1, okay, agree with plan. Apostrophe 2 is my usual screen time. If I sent a refill, it's apostrophe 3. And so those are the ones that are small, short things that I type over and over and over again. And I've just made those numbers, so I don't really have to remember, what phrase, whether it was a capital R, lowercase r example. And I'm wondering, it's kind of a question, a little bit of a tangent, but in our office, we haven't really planned out how we're going to roll this out and use it, but I may propose that we have the office-wide snap text begin with one character and then personal ones begin with a different one, just so that you can have, 2 concussion, and mine says one thing and the office-wide one is slightly different or has a different purpose. And I don't know if anybody else has done that or thought about that at all.
I like that idea a lot, Nelson. I hadn't thought about that, but I think I could see that working really well.
But so, just because I'm not clear on this, if I make practice-wide snap texts, do they appear on my personal screen as well, or just in?
Only
They're just in the practice-wide, because like the way we set it up when we started was they just PCC imported all of my type it for me phrases into the practice-wide. And then I took the ones that like were case specific that I wanted to not be case specific and made new ones out of them in my own. I don't remember what somebody had said there was some concern about some duplication issues, but
I'm looking right now at the my account window, and you can pull down different users on the upper right, and there is a practice-wide user, and so you can see them there. You just have to change the user.
And as a user, you can steal or snag from the office-wide library, saying like, oh, I really like the office-wide concussion. but I would say it like this. So you take the one from practice wide and then you can edit it slightly.
Yeah, because I haven't, at first I said, everybody's got to do their own. But it makes sense if we can use them for forms that we do for others. So I can just do practice defaults or, all right.
In my mind, and again, I'm not running a practice, but I had figured the office-wide would become a really wonderful repository of patient portal message responses. If there are things people are typically responding to on the patient portal repeatedly,
oh yeah,
have a set response.
Yeah, that, and we've thought about doing it for now the single patient text, where there could be one, okay, come in from the parking lot, or doctor's running ahead, doctor's running behind. If there's going to be the same type of thing that they text over and over again, that's one of the things we're going to be discussing, is using snap text for that.
I have my receptionist starting to do that with all of her typical like text reminders. You have your physical coming up in a week, please complete your chatus, you're this, you're that. And so for all, she had been doing just copy paste, but she's going to start doing the snap text for that.
I'm curious, it's hard because I'm currently sharing my screen, so I'll stop for just a moment because I want to see if folks are asking questions, but it looks like they are not. Did anyone want to dive into the EHR and kind of demonstrate some of these functionalities or play with them, or did you want to move on to COVID-related workflow discussion?
I think we could go. I think I'm fine with. I just popped onto the screen. I understand where to go. It's just all the nomenclature tips that are great.
Right.
Are you taking comments on the YouTube channel too?
Jan is monitoring those. Okay. Yeah, as well as the UC Mattermost chat.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Mattermost here.
Too many channels.
Yes.
So many places to go. No wonder Chip never sleeps.
Yeah, we've heard the feedback already. Do it like Chip and Polly. Put everything in one place.
God, Chip and Polly. There's some team.
Yeah, they're pretty awesome. Have you all been attending the COVID business webinars?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, one of my associates calls it her religious experience for the week.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, no, my family knows Thursday nights. It's like, just leave me be.
Pizza night, Dr. Jen's house.
Yeah.
So based on some of those PMI webinars, what are some of the, COVID business related workflows or practices? Is there anything you've taken directly from those discussions and put into place since the pandemic began?
I think a lot of it is more financially related.
Very explicitly not clinically related.
Yeah. So a lot of it really, it's more like HR, finance related, and so on. So, yeah, it would be nice to be able to. And actually, I'm happy to go on to the next topic of the COVID workflow, because that's really where I'm a little bit at a loss right now. Is to, I know what we're doing now, but I'm dreading the fall, and that sort of stuff is not covered.
Yeah, bracing for impact in the age of uncertainty.
Yeah.
And the baby boom.
Yeah, the quarantinis.
We've got the fleeing New York baby boom here, because everybody's fled New York and they're all dying to move into our area. So we're getting a huge influx.
Interesting. Yeah, we've seen a lot of not green license plates as of late, folks running away to their summer homes or to the safety of Vermont.
Yeah. Well, Maine won't let them in.
No. Well, I think that may have changed.
But then you have to quarantine for 2 weeks.
Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering, Jen, if it impacts how you treat new patients, if you know that they had just left New York, and if it was a hotbed that they were in just a few days or a week earlier.
Yeah, at the beginning beginning, we were pretty careful about screening, but we mostly, again, because we're seeing barely any illness, it's mostly been babies, and the moms were, for the most part, like, we're being screened at delivery. They're all getting COVID tested at delivery. So we had some idea as to how they were, and it would be a few days before they came in. So if they screened negative, they had no symptoms. We're kind of dressing up as if everybody's got it.
Mhm.
Yeah, in California, they're starting to open up the preschools and the daycares, and so the relative calm we've had with illness the last couple of months, we're getting ready for that to start coming big time in the next month or two. And of course, we have to treat every kid with a fever as if they have it, and every parent who has a sick kid is going to be convinced their kid has it until proven otherwise.
Yeah. Are you seeing them in your office?
We are trying to keep anybody who has a really good chance of having it out. We're still seeing what we call the non-sick in the office, and like almost everybody else, well in the morning and early afternoon, and anybody with illness symptoms only in the late afternoon, and getting into our spacesuits before we see anybody.
Yeah.
Get ready, because here in the state that is the widest open to business, we're now beginning to see huge increases in cases and huge increases in hospitalizations and ICU utilization, and the heat doesn't seem to have any impact on it. So we're fortunate. I've still got this extra space as I get ready to move out of my current office, but I have this extra space that used to be sublet. So we're seeing all those sick kids over there.
Yeah.
Why are you the only one on camera who can get a haircut who's wearing a hat? What's that about?
I haven't got a haircut because, okay, number one, this was part of the office theme, right? Number two, I refuse to go to a barber shop right now. There is no way.
So if you're seeing patients in the office, if you see sick patients in the office, how long do you all feel like you need to keep a room empty? Like, are you going with droplets if we're not doing any sort of sampling? It's just surfaces that need to be cleaned and you can turn it over right away? Or are you going with there could be aerosols?
No, droplet.
Yeah, I think the most recent evidence really suggests it's droplet. So we're going with droplet.
Okay. Are you any of you doing COVID testing? Do you have any point of care testing?
Not point of care. We're collecting samples and sending them to lab.
And are you collecting in the office or outside?
So mostly in the office, but we found an empty space in one of our buildings and created a sick office. And
okay.
So that's where all the kids who are ill go, and then our regular offices are for well care and behavioral health follow-up kind of stuff.
Yeah.
When kids need COVID testing, I've done, I don't know if it's been the majority, but I've done a lot of the COVID testing, and depending on where I am, either I'll do it in the sick office, or I will do it at the end of the day on the patio outside the office.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we're still studying
in one of our rooms right before we lock the doors and the office is about to be cleaned.
We're still sending them out. Oh, sorry, Nelson. Yeah, we're getting all these requests. Sleepaway camps are opening here, and sports leagues are starting again, and some of them have to get tested before they're allowed to participate. So we're actually getting all these quote well asymptomatic kids who need to be tested too.
Yeah, we can send them to a local hospital for testing. We're not doing any sampling, but thinking ahead to fall when we're going to start doing flu and strep and possibly COVID. We're a small office, so I'm trying to figure out that workflow of do we start everybody, like, do we have telehealth walk-ins in the morning, decide who needs what swab outside before they come in and see them in a room.
Yeah. Well, and then it's swabbing for flu, right? We used to do that without even a surgical mask in the past, and not really think twice about it.
Yeah, we need like a single flu COVID test. That everybody's going to get cold.
That would be awfully clever.
Oh, for $500, you could send somebody for the biofire. Biofire is doing COVID now.
Yeah, but oh God, it's our local hospital loves to do them, and they charge them $500. It's never covered.
Interesting. So it's so hard because this is so state-based, but recently Vermont has opened up free COVID clinics, and you sign up for a slot online, a 15-minute slot, and it's like a drive-through.
Yeah, that's what we have for COVID only.
That's what we do. That's what we do too.
Okay. Because Vermont has, had a few phases roll out of opening things back up. Pre-Ks are open, camps are at the camp's discretion if they can follow all the CDC guidelines. A lot of private camps have closed, but there are other facilities, childcare, daycare facilities that are having summer camps. So yeah, we're getting a lot more widespread testing. So it's hard to say if opening things back up slowly but surely has led to more cases, or if we are now properly identifying more cases that were out there. So.
One quick EHR related thing related to COVID, just for those if they don't know. In addition to Snap Text, we've always had, or had for a long time, the Snap Lab option that you can create a single lab order that pulls together a bunch of labs. So we created a Snap Lab for MIS-C so that, and all these kids, I mean, it sounds like we're encouraged to identify them as early as possible. So in all these kids with unexplained fevers, we've got the list of inflammatory markers along with the CBC and even the troponin and whatnot in there if we're going to order it. So it's one lab order, not multiple lab orders. Just save some time.
Yeah. So can we do some paperless office stuff?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Entirely up to you all.
Yeah. So, can you expand on what's happening with Chattis? Since I think, are we all Chattis users here?
We do not yet. We're on the verge.
All right. So can you go over Chattis so you can convince Nelson to do it?
So my unfortunate response to Chattis is the old coming soon. But I do have some more, I got some more clarification from software development around, what we call internally Chattis phase 2, coinciding with 8.14. And for context, 8.13 is scheduled for mid-August.
Okay.
And we hope to deliver on that timeline. The June COVID release was originally called the May COVID release. So as we know, things do come up and it gets rescheduled, and an awful lot of development that was on the roadmap was completely paused for the pandemic, and all efforts went into developing tools as quickly as possible to help you all survive and thrive. So, Chattis unfortunately went to the side while, we work on things like broadcast messaging or texting families or telemedicine integration, but it's, more than apparent to, I'm sure, everyone at this table that Chattis fits in perfectly with telemedicine and staying distant. So it is on the roadmap. We're working hard. I do not have many details about the integration. Suffice to say, the way that it is envisioned is that a family would be accessing the Chattis tools through the PCC patient portal. I think right now you direct them to a Chattis-based website. And then once folks fill the Chattis form via the portal, that the responses, the final product, is a PDF automatically on the patient's chart within the EHR associated to the visit that the Chattis form was for. So that's the workflow that has been envisioned. I apologize that I don't have more.
My understanding from the roadmap session was that the first step is going to be pushing out the invitations for those who are already Chattis users, pushing out invitations based on what well visit they're coming for, correct? That was step one, I think.
Oh yeah, well visit, any visit actually, if it's behavioral health too.
Right.
And I have to say, I think that for me, the biggest crowd pleaser will be the single sign-on. it's so confusing to our parents. Am I logging into the portal? Am I logging to Chattis? What am I looking for? And so having one place to sign on to will make a huge difference in completion rate.
Yeah. No, so what we're doing now is we're having parents, we're directing them to go to Chattis and then to go to our website where we've got all of our fillable forms for each visit type. So like when you mentioned fillable forms, like if we could access through the portal, if we send them to the portal to get into Chattis and to be able to complete those same fillable forms that we've got on the website, I mean, is that a dream that might be happening?
Yeah, that sounds like a perfect marriage between two of our portfolio teams, the leveraging pediatric data and the patient engagement. On the patient engagement side, closely married to Chattis and the patient portal functionality. On the leveraging pediatric data side, form functionality, how it speaks to the EHR, what data it can get out. So yes, this is in line with the goals that we have.
So when you say, so what sort of, like, what is PCC thinking in terms of the fillable forms? Like, how would it function?
I would say as Chattis functions.
So, I mean, we could push a form out to the patient that we create. They would fill in the information and it would come back through the portal.
Right. My understanding, there are custom forms in Chattis too, correct? There's like a standard library, perhaps, an Edinburgh, PHQ-9, but then as a Chattis user of a various level, do you then have fillable custom form functionality as well with them?
They don't really do that much anymore. I think they used to do that more, but there's just a library of hundreds of potential questionnaires, a fraction of which we use on a regular basis, but many of which we'll go to under unique circumstances. But they're not forms that are customizable. They're because the whole point of Chattis is to provide standardized forms that are billable and
yeah. The forms I'm talking about are the ones that we've created to match our protocols. So our MAs take the information and put it into the protocols for us.
Right. So theoretically, you could be completing parts of your well visit by having the parent do it before they ever come in the office is what you do, right?
And that's what we're doing now on a regular basis, is that before they come in. And that's what's the text messaging has helped a lot with that. We said, you go to the website, you fill out, you do Chattis, you fill out your health survey in advance. But again, they get so confused. Well, is Chattis the same as the health survey? And where are we going? And is that the same as the portal? And
with the goal being less physical time in the office.
Yeah, because that way when I go into the room, I've got Chattis done. I've already been able to review all of their answers as to sleep, nutrition, school, etc. So I've got all the information in front of me. I can do my directed questioning exam.
Jen, you're going to be able to replace all your MAs with AI if you keep that up.
Well, I need to, because I can't find MAs.
We've got one question, a related question, just before we move on. Someone in chat was saying that they're struggling with getting patients to complete the screenings. They said the parents are great, but it's the adolescents that they're having trouble with completion prior to the visit, no matter how many times they call, they text. Do any of you guys have, or anybody either in chat or in the Zoom, does anybody have any success, any good strategies for mitigating that?
To be honest, it almost never happens. And so the teen screening we're typically doing in the office before they're seen. The one time that it does happen is when the parents are sitting there making them do it, which then you have to wonder about the veracity of the response because the parent is sitting there making them do it. So you have a talk with parents.
So we
encourage them that if they're going to have their teens do it, to step out of the room and let the teens really do it on their own.
Yeah. We put kids into the hearing and vision screening room, and we give them the iPad then, while the parent waits in the waiting room reading our, this is what we talk about with your teen handout. Getting them to complete it ahead of time. We actually are just now talking about a workflow where we text the teen using the text feature and try to send them a link
to complete the HQ9 ahead of time. So
we're trying to
maybe next year I can.
Yeah, we're trying to
Sorry?
text the team directly now. I will say the biggest problem for us is that Chattis is not that user friendly.
Right.
That's the you know, they get in, they don't understand where to go, they forget their password. So
navigating is the tough bit.
I'm sorry?
Navigating is the tough bit.
Yeah.
Navigating is definitely a tough bit. But again, we haven't really tried to problem solve that because the PHQ-9 is so quick for them to do that we haven't found a better solution than just having them do it in the office at this point.
Especially for the shorter ones. It's
right. Whereas the ASQ is really time consuming and yeah.
Yeah, for our teens, we're doing 2 screenings though. We're doing the PSC and we're also doing a depression screening. I forget which ones we've done, but they're not the quickest.
Right. So we use the PHQ-9 as the quick catch-all for depression and sleep issues and attentional issues and anxiety because it hits on everything at least a little bit. Again, the place where we've had luck getting kids to fill out stuff in advance is when there's a more specific concern, like they call and they're concerned about the possibility of anxiety or depression, and we want to have them fill out one of the specific depression inventories or the scared for anxiety. And so we'll then walk the parent through how to help the kid fill that out in advance, with the carrot being that we don't schedule your appointment until we have the information in advance.
We do the same thing. Yep, for all the behavioral stuff and the anxiety, depression, ADD, you don't get an appointment until you filled it out.
Right.
And then you fill it out fast.
Yeah.
So one thing that we've done, just kind of related to the paperless office, is, and I don't know how much we're going to use this now that we can attach documents to future visits. Thank you for that. But we actually have a chart-wide component called Chattis Review that lives in our medical summary and that lives in every one of our well care protocols. And so when I get a Chattis for a well visit next week, I will open it up, open the chart, review the Chattis, sign off on it, and then edit the Chattis Review component in my medical summary, put notes in there. The following week, when I open up my well care protocol, it's right there at the top. And so I don't have to go digging into the documents. I can see the notes that I wrote on that, that Chattis Review. And that's been really helpful in not having to spend a lot of time looking for documents or wondering if it was done.
Yeah, but now that you can attach documents to future visits, it really makes it a lot easier, because I've always just annotated on the imported PDF. And so now that you can attach it to the visit, it's already there at the very bottom of the visit. And all I have to do is order the screen and attach it to the screen.
Helpful. Thank you for that.
I really like your current background. Every time you talk, I'm playing, okay, I like the name.
Conference a couple years ago, yeah.
A plug here for the UC 2020 Mattermost. There is a Chattis channel. So if you want to interface with them directly as one of our vendors of the Virtual Users Conference, it sounds like you guys have feedback regarding, custom form options, user friendliness, whatever it might be. There is a space within the PCC Virtual Users Conference to talk to them directly.
I think the idea that somebody made of giving a carrot to the family or to the teen is important, because when life gets busy, I know by noon today, I probably got a dozen emails of things that I got to deal with between now and when I go to sleep tonight, work, personal. So we have the teens that have been taking Zoom classes and have homework, parents that are trying to juggle multiple different things. And then they get a message saying, please complete this. And by the end of the day, they may completely forget that it's been there, or they just say on the hierarchy of things they need to do, filling out the survey or the form wasn't their highest priority. So Robin, I don't know if you're back on again, but do you do any, if you are, is this any part of your gamification that you do with your patients?
It was a few years ago, yeah. And then, I mean, most of them are trained now. It's just getting the new patients on board. So, you know, I think being more diligent about getting email contacts and or cell phones for the teens is going to be a huge part as we move forward with integration. The parents don't seem to understand how to invite the teens, or they're too lazy to look it up. I know Chattis on their website has a lot of new instructional material. I don't know if you all have seen that, checked it out recently, but they've got a lot of new handouts and information on how to get parents to invite teachers and the teens themselves. So I think their direction's gotten a little better there. But yeah, definitely getting the teens to fill theirs out has been the biggest hurdle.
Right, and just to reiterate something Robin just said, one of the most important things to do if you're using something like Chattis is to make it part of the practice culture so that there are reminders in lots of different places. So for us, when our staff is doing, I'm spacing on words right now, when our staff is verifying appointments, they're going to mention it when they verify the appointment. I have a little thing in my follow-up section for the next checkup that always says, please remember to fill out Chattis prior to your next appointment. So they see it on their take-home sheet or in the portal when they look at their take-home sheet. So once it becomes part of the practice culture to just do it, a far majority of families just do it because it's part of what you do.
Right. And I mean, that ties into, I loved the term gamification being thrown out there. When I do a new PCC client go live, I often encourage incentivizing your staff to reach certain key performance indicators, like verifying their demographics and getting a patient portal user set up. And I usually make this huge, bright colored sticky note for behind the front desk that the staff can see that says, I see you do not have a patient portal account set up, ... Because yes, it's very holistic. Everybody needs to be on the same page in understanding the channels of communication we need open and accurate with the patients and the families, Chattis or otherwise.
Right.
And I've also started using the single text. If I happen to notice that a particular family hasn't done Chattis, I will shoot them a text either the night before or if they're an afternoon around lunchtime, just to say, hey, haven't seen this come across yet, so do it.
Very smart.
Dr. Gruen, before we move on, is it worthwhile to share the Chattis page from your website? Is that helpful?
She looks like she stepped away.
Lost her.
Okay. Yeah, I knew folks would be coming in and out.
I didn't hear her wind chime going anymore.
She's still there. I can see her. I can see the picture. She's just not there.
She's not there. I'm sure she'll be back. Oh man. But I can, as her CA, I'll follow up with her and say, hey, let's share your successes with the website and Chattis on PCC community. I think that already, it might have just been in the email thread before this meeting, but she has been circulating some of the successes there.
Now, Dr. Warner, the examples that you had shared of the portal registration forms, are those, you had created those. Is there anything that would prevent using that approach for other uses, for other means?
Oh, not at all. I actually created those to try to be as paperless as possible and to be able during COVID to register new patients without them having to print out forms and bring them into the office or come to the office and pick them up. So this is a simple way just to do everything.
Yeah,
through a portal.
Those are the next two pages of the next two slides, if you don't mind advancing. Yeah, so they're not super easy to see. I grabbed screenshots of what was shared.
But yeah, you've essentially used the messaging templates functionality.
Correct.
Into an entire virtual secure registration process. So no third-party website, PDF writer, nothing. It's just all through the portal.
Right. Yeah. My only wish is I wish we could send out these messaging templates instead of having the parent have to go in and find it.
Right. You can send them a reminder.
Right.
Snap text to say, here's the instructions for finding the new patient registration. But yes, it's just that many more hoops for them to jump through. But
Right.
there, now I have another enhancement request.
But yeah, I had somebody earlier this week use this. It was awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. I have folks using a similar approach to not only appointment requests, but also camp and school forms. If they know they have a page on their multi-page camp or school form that requires a lot of input from the family, they've actually made a messaging template where there are required free text box answers. Mom and dad, or the caregiver fills it out, and when that is received, then the staff is able to copy and paste their answers into their form generation of the school or camp form and have a completed parent and doctor version in a few clicks. Kind of like a hack Chattis, I guess. Oh, we've got Dr. Gruen back. While you were gone, dear, we were referring to your website, correct? The Chattis section of your website, and we were wondering if you wanted to share that with the team.
Oh, sorry about that.
All right. Yep. The joys of Zoom.
Yeah, all right. So let me, so in terms, wait, the Chattis or the form area?
Either or.
So what we've got now is we've got, Remedy Web worked really well with us on this. So we've got all of our various forms on here. And so what we're now directing people to do is they go to the general, we give them a link here to the general health surveys. So like the sick visit survey, this is what they would normally fill out in the office. And now they fill it out online for us. And again, our MAs fill this all into the sick visit template for us. And then all of these general health surveys cover all of the basic, feeding, sleep, etc. And again, they fill these out, comes back into the website, and then this is all downloaded into our into the MA, or the MAs enter all the information into the EHR for us. So we've got that in advance. We used to have those all done on wipe-offs. And so, I mean, if these were if we could push these forms out through the portal, like Chattis, and get the answers back within the portal, then obviously it would, be just one place for the patient to have to go. And obviously if it comes back to us, easier than going into the website, cutting and pasting in. But, and then we've got basically just every form that we have can be filled out online now. Yeah, the Chattis just clicks out to Chattis. Or, well, we try and give them the information on how to use it and they never read it. And then
no wonder they have trouble navigating.
And then what we also did was, so we made, under our well visits, we tried to make it very clear. We're trying to direct every kid before their well visit to say, go in under well health, and you can see exactly what you need to do. I tried color coding it, like you name it. It's just not, they have to read, but they can go in this way as well, click through to do the Chattis, the general health survey, and then they get the handout that we usually give them, which we fill out, is here as well. We're still giving these out on paper in the office, but if they misplace, because we put in their information, they like seeing it. You could say that you could see it on the portal, they like seeing it, but
yeah.
if they lose it, they can now find it off of the website. And then we did a couple of, like when we were really kind of twiddling thumbs a little bit, we made a bunch of videos for different ages.
Oh, fun.
So this is my video on how to start solids.
Where do I find that?
So, so here it's under the 4-month visit, starting solids video. And so it's nice because now, like, instead of sitting there and going through the whole rigmarole, I say, okay, it's in your handout and there's a video on the website. So I'm going to go over the very basics, but go home, read the handout, watch the video. And I go through here. It's like
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a long video, and I go through like from starting with purees in a 4-month-old through to how to do baby led weaning. A former patient of mine wrote a really nice book on baby led weaning, which is just basically teaching infants how to self feed from 6 months up. So
I'm a huge
I
fan.
did a bunch of props from her book and just show them how to do it, and this has been great. The parents really like it because they can actually see what I'm doing.
Oh, I love this.
So we did that. And where else did we do a video? I think we have, oh, here we did, who did the sleep video? I think that was, we'll see.
Hi
Dr.
guys,
Sarah.
I'm Dr. Sarah.
Dr. Sarah. So she did a video on just
The first few months at home can be really challenging.
there we go. So we see, we have them here, like at the 2 to 5 day visit, we say, you go in and watch that sleep video because it's going to tell you how to get that kid to sleep from the get-go. Where else? I think we had, all right. We also did a whole, we put on video our office tour. So.
You're great.
This is all music to the ears of our marketing speaker earlier today, Dr. Una.
Yeah, no, I've watched her. So, and where is it? All right, well, somewhere we have, maybe, it's under new conditions, prenatal information maybe. Oh, here, so we put in a whole bunch of, so here, this is another video, what you need for your newborn. And then we did a prenatal video, which is our COVID-19 version. This one I think is also mine, where we just did.
Hi, welcome to Village Pediatrics. This is our virtual.
Yeah, so we did a virtual prenatal, and we did a tour, and then we did, and Nikki did just like our basic what we're all about, and that way, instead of having them come into the office,
right,
they can
and
start.
a application form all right there.
Yeah. So.
Circling back a few beats, Dr. Gruen, while you were gone, Dr. Warner mentioned using the new EHR single text functionality to remind folks gently when they haven't completed their chat as form required.
Yeah.
So if you got their cell in the demographics, that's with all the free time you have, remind the families.
We're loving that text functionality.
Oh, great! We are very happy to hear that. If I go back a few, this has kind of been happening organically throughout the roundtable, but are there any other, ideas or challenges or wishes you'd like to share and discuss with the team?
Yeah, I'm wondering if any of the offices are making a strong effort to change the portal notifications from email to text, or both email and text, because that's one of the things I was waiting for a long time. I'm so glad that the text notification for portal messaging is added, but it either means that we need to do it in the office for the parent or the teen, or they need to go into their own portal account and do it. Otherwise, it'll remain with just email.
Could be a clever way to integrate a broadcast message as well. You could send out a short blast to all to all cell phones and emails, a short message letting them know that functionality is now available and inciting them to change their own patient portal settings. Because, guilty, I am an avid patient portal user, and my client and pediatrician is a PCC client, and I still only get the email alerts, and just based on the pace of life and what I'm up to all day, I'm not in my Gmail very often. So I completely miss that they responded to my message. So I need to personally change my preferences.
Yeah, Mike, I've been actually, when the patient's in the office, getting the ones who are in the office taken care of that way. But yeah, I agree that broadcast messaging may be the way to go.
Yeah, I'm finding when I'm sending portal messages myself, if I see that they still have email notification, I just take it on myself to add text to their notification options. I don't think many people are going to mind being notified both ways.
Yeah.
And if they are, then I guess we'll hear about it.
Yeah, I think, Kate, did I ask you, like, if we could just default, make it so that we're sending it to all patients text and email. I don't remember if it was you or somebody else responded that we could, that no, we couldn't.
It's worth putting in the wish pile.
Because again, I agree. Like, I'd rather just default parents to both of them and then have them go in and disable it than have to have them all opt in.
Right. And I also really appreciate if and when, you know, folks have the appointment book and the telemedicine functionality set up, if you have a telemedicine appointment and you're charting the EHR, I love the new red warning saying no link was sent to this family because it has no active associated patient portal users. And that's a huge reminder to anyone in that chart, whether it's the MA starting the doxy.me, you know, appointment or the provider charting. First and foremost, some housekeeping. We need your email address. I can't believe we don't have your email address. We need to set you up with the patient portal.
Yeah, it's a small thing, but one of the things I've asked the staff to do is in the appointment notes, let us know which parent we're calling, because if there are two portal accounts, there may be that one, and if they didn't send a telemedicine consent through the portal, we might call whoever the default phone number or best communication option is, but it might have been a different parent that is planning to do the visit, and the parent that we send the doxy link to has no clue why it's arrived or what's going on at all.
Oh, interesting, because if using my understanding, if using the telemedicine features in the EHR, that link would be sent to all active portal users associated to the patient.
Yeah, that's assuming that they check the portal message.
Correct.
So just what we've done is just ask the staff to put in the appointment note, call mom, the cell phone number, or call teen is doing the visit.
Okay.
And that way we know the right person to send the doxy link to.
No, that's an important note. Right, you think you're meeting with the mom and all of a sudden it's just the teen or it's the father. That's a bit surprising.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, I had a question about one of the things that's coming down the road, and that's the query responder and the document managing through like the HIE and stuff. Just wondering if there's any sense of how much control over what kind of document flow there's going to be. As I was a couple years ago looking to maybe get acquired by another company that used a 4-letter word EHR that I won't mention, and every user consistently said they never have an empty inbox because there's always hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of messages there. And I never want to end up in that situation. I like having an empty inbox at the end of the day. And I know that interoperability is really important, but I'm just wondering like what that's going to look like a little bit and how we're going to avoid getting overwhelmed.
What I'm hearing from you is the concern with opening the floodgates of CDE, critical document exchange.
Yes, yes.
It would be an onslaught of new messages,
Yes.
More so than direct secure messaging.
Yes.
Okay. I
So-
apologize.
Like, what would you be getting that way?
I
You know,
can-
reports on patients. Like, what sort of stuff would you be getting sent your way? Just like generic messages to hospital staff?
So I can speak to the care quality piece a little bit because we're a beta site for that, and currently we are responders, which means that our information gets uploaded, and so our local, well, basically essentially everyone around us uses Epic, and what happened
4-letter
when
word.
we first, yeah, it is. But when we first went live, a couple of weeks after we went live as responders, I was reviewing some after-hours clinic notes from an Epic affiliated after-hours clinic, and I noticed, oh, they have a pretty reasonably complete problem list and really messy medication list, and they actually have immunizations in their notes. That's so interesting. And then I realized it was my problem list, my messy, hadn't cleaned up medication list, and my immunizations, because they had gone into Care Everywhere and pulled that information from what has been uploaded to Care Quality. So that's what's going to happen. which of course meant that we all had to start furiously cleaning up our medication list, which is not easy, and we're very excited for all the ERX enhancements that are coming in October, Morgan. And so anyway, that was one side of it. We're going to be a beta site for the initiator role, which means we'll be able to pull information in. And Seth, again, I'll be able to tell you more in a few months, but my understanding is that we will actually have to go pull information in. And so it's not that random things show up in your inbox. Again, that may be different. It may be that I'm not totally getting what it's going to be, but I think it's kind of like a care everywhere situation. And I don't know, Kate, if you have any more information on that, but I think you have to go looking.
Okay.
Right. That was my understanding as well. And I apologize that I can't speak more to the CVE workflow. It's complicated. And like you said, initiator is the next great frontier versus just response. But my understanding of the concept of it all is that it's more of a find and go seek, not a blasting people with messages and requests. You have opened yourself up to this document exchange network that's secure, so it's enabling you to go and find what you need. I don't see it so much as a message-based platform.
Yeah, we also started beta testing the care quality some months back. And it's been a few months since I asked, but when I asked the team how many requests our system had within the first, I think, month or month and a half after we went live with it, we'd had exactly one chart pulled. So for whatever that was worth, we had that concern of suddenly our data is wide open to the entire world, and hearing what we did about care quality and how it's done, we became comfortable with security of it. But one of the other things we did is when we got the list of what's going to be shared, which is essentially kind of like a visit summary or a summary of care record, we went through all the lists, all the diagnoses that we might consider confidential. So a lot of the mental health diagnoses we marked as confidential, so they don't appear on visit summaries, they don't appear on the summary of care record, and they won't get shared through care quality. Lab tests like STD testing, the same thing. So it became, we got more comfortable with the idea that the information is going to go out there and we're unlikely to be breaching any confidentiality. We had visions of something like a STD test or a mental health diagnosis goes out there, and then some other doctor out there who gets it mentions it to a parent, and it gets traced back to the fact that we released it. So we tried to minimize the chance of that happening.
Very smart.
Michael, was it easy to do that? Like, were you able to run reports on the following patients of this type?
It was a lot of manual work. I pretty much just kind of got a mental list of myself of what are the things that I think should not be shared. And I went through a lot of the mental health, the sexually transmitted, sexually related types of diagnoses, and just went through the diagnoses configuration. And there's a box, I don't remember the exact name for it, but you can check it. So it not only makes it so it's hidden now, but it makes it go back historically. So that also made us comfortable that if there was a visit 5 years ago where a patient had a diagnosis of chlamydia, then that visit 5 years ago, if that gets pulled, is not going to show that diagnosis.
You weren't doing it patient by patient. You were doing it in diagnosis configuration.
Exactly. Yeah, and the fact that it was able to be done historically is what made us comfortable with it.
Got it.
And it also brings to light, perhaps, just if you understand that in the future you want to take this approach, there are means to organize procedures into groups, and maybe you start building a conceptual confidential procedures group.
Yeah, going forward, we've become more aware of the whole concept of team confidentiality as time has gone by. But part of our concern was maybe a locum doctor 5 years ago charted something that should have been more confidential, and they didn't just put it as a note, but they put it as a diagnosis. And if that diagnosis wasn't hidden, we also realized now it's going to be on a summary of care record. Now it's going to be on the visit summary if it was printed up. So even if the parent can't get into the kid's portal account, there are still ways that might have shown as a diagnosis if it wasn't hidden.
So just because I'm nosy and I'm privy to the awesome conversations that you guys had going on via an email thread, is this a bad time to switch gears and ask Dr. Branco to unveil his radiology requisition workaround?
You can ask whatever you want. Yeah, it's I'm happy to do it. It's pretty simple. I don't know if you want to pull up your PCC on the PCC server, but essentially we just use the visit summary. Yeah, and so our workaround is that all of our so in our situation, we primarily use Quest Labs. As of a couple of years ago, when our local community hospital started sending all their labs to Quest, and so we configured all of our labs to include the Quest number. And so, for example, when I order a CBC with diff, it prints out both in the visit and on the visit summary as CBC with differential, and then in parentheses 6399, which is the Quest number. And so when I order the labs, it has the name of the lab, it has the Quest number. If we have a lab that we send somewhere else, we'll put in the Quest version and the somewhere else version. So for example, COVID screening, when we refer someone to our county drive-through clinic, we have one version. When we send it to Quest, we have another version. And so my lab configuration has parentheses with numbers. That's the Quest number. And then of course, in the actual lab, so if you open up, for example, that CBC with diff, right there, under Quest, I will go ahead and put in, so if you go to the Quest box there and type 6399, so I choose that 6399 because I know that 6399 is the number that Quest wants it to be associated with when it comes in as an eLab. And so my CBC with diff order looks like that, except that in parentheses next to the name, there's that number, that 6399.
Okay.
So this, and that helps. That's to sort of guard against the errors on the Quest side. You know, when they are trying to figure out what you mean by a anti-endomysial and they misspell it and they can't quite find it and they happen to pick something that looks close but it's the wrong thing, and then you have to figure out why they ordered the wrong thing. You know, me going through and putting the numbers in helps prevent that, makes it a little more specific. So that's what I did on the configuration side. On the other side, when we're in a visit, excuse me, we'll go into a visit, we'll order some labs and put in some diagnoses. And so if you just go and order that CBC with diff, you have to arrive the patient, Kate.
Oh. Yeah, don't blame Kate for any of the stupid things I'm doing. This is totally Jan driving.
I'm giving Kate a lot of credit for Jan. So order that CBC with diff, and then we'll put in a diagnosis of whatever you want, fever.
Yeah.
Great. And then great. And then we go to print a visit summary.
Under reports.
Yeah, I always forget which one is at the very top.
Yeah, or you can just go to, if you go back to the visit, you can just click on appointment details and it's in the upper right.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, this is the one at the top.
Yeah, that's where I do it.
I was good.
And then from the visit summary, so our standard visit summary comes with only the demographics, the diagnoses, and labs and orders checked. Everything else is unchecked by default. And so if you uncheck all those extraneous things, you will find that you will have an approximation of a lab slip. And so our lab has been kind enough to accept this as a lab slip. All the labs that we work with, we sign it. We print it out on paper, we sign it, we give it to the family. There is a way to, if you click display ICD-10, so this happened recently. And so now there's an ICD-10 that comes up, and so it makes it even more functional as a lab slip. And our our local labs have all accepted this as a lab slip for us.
Oh, nice.
And for us, because like I said, we're using Quest, it also includes the Quest ID number that they want that's on their standard lab slip. So to create that, I asked our Quest rep, send me the link for our local lab book, because every location has a different set of codes. And so she sent me that, and I just looked up the code. It was an awesome weekend project of looking up the codes for every lab in our lab configuration. But now it's done, and it's worked really well for us. And because we have the right codes in, when the e-labs come in, they populate correctly.
So you're not hunting for the results either.
Your staff doesn't input the order into the Quest portal, then?
Nope. No. Yeah. So in our practice, they take this paper lab slip and they walk across the courtyard to the Quest lab, and they put it into the Quest portal there. We have access to the Quest portal for viewing labs, but not for ordering. The other thing, sorry, I just had a thought that is gone now. And then for order, one thing that gets messy is we do the same for radiology. When we do it for radiology, what you do is you uncheck labs and you check orders. The one messy thing is if you order X-ray during, for example, check, the vision screening, hearing screening, PPD, all that stuff is also in order. And so there's extra stuff on there that we have to cross out. So it's not quite as clean as the lab solution, but it still works really well for us. And what I was going to say before is the other thing that we can do is we can create this lab slip, sign it, and then upload it to the portal. So when a parent calls and they need a lab over the phone, or we order it during a televisit, we can still get them a quote-unquote lab slip by uploading the document to the portal that they download and print, and then they pay for the ink.
What about is there any way that we can get patient address, and the lab is also going to require address and insurance. Like we have a custom lab slip that doesn't include the labs that we're ordering, but it includes all the demographics that we print out.
Yeah,
So
I wonder if this
we
patient
actually
is absent.
So we had one, maybe Kate created for us a lab demographic form that we print out from our list of forms, and we include that when we don't include it when we give them a lab slip that they take, but if we are collecting the lab in the office, so for GC chlamydia or send out COVID testing, we include that lab demographic form.
So Kate, could we request that patient demographic that we could add on more patient demographic information?
I think it might be an issue of this test patient not having that.
I think you're right.
But no, I mean, it even says next to the checkbox, it does not include address and all that to be included.
There.
He's got an address.
Oh yeah, no, he's got address.
Where they make the good cheese. So, and I don't want to break Dr. Branco's heart, but we have lab requisition and radiology requisition forms coming as part of 813 in August.
I don't think anybody's heart is going to break.
We'll take it.
Oh, no, that was our first enhancement request 2 months before our go live. We requested lab form. So I'm thrilled, long overdue.
Yes. As someone who has created many a workaround, I'm very excited.
In fact, we just came from the demo. The two of us were racing in to host you guys from the demo. And we're both like, oh my God, how do we not talk about this? But we can't talk about this.
You didn't hear any of this. None of this is being recorded. We're in a safe
zone. We'll deny it if you repeat it.
Flip something onto the screen, we would look away.
I don't even have access to it. That's how new it is. I can't even get to the environment that it was demoed in.
So Nelson, did I hear you say that if your office is going to be sending out something like a strep or a urine to Quest, that you don't use a Quest form, you just use the same visit summary along with a demographic form to send?
Yeah, we actually. sorry. The only Quest form we have in our office is the one that I use to look up numbers. We don't even have a box of those around.
So how does it work if, let's say, you've already done a rapid strep, rapid flu, whatever in-office tests, and then you're going to want to send off a throat culture for strep to Quest, because those other orders are also going to show in the visit summary, aren't they?
No, we have them. There is an option in the lab configuration to not have it go to visit summary. It's the same thing that you do when you order STI labs.
Right.
So if you go to lab configuration and open one of them,
so you don't have those in-office labs like strep or flu show up on any visit summary, because
exactly.
Okay.
Right, and that's and I say that solution works for us because we don't routinely print and give people a visit summary, and so we're not we're not going for meaningful use. We use a visit summary for things like, we have another thing we do with the visit summary that is kind of interesting and maybe something other folks would want to do, is we have a component called clinical instructions, and that clinical instructions is a separate checkbox on the visit summary, and that's where we put our patient instructions, so that our plan and our assessment and all of that is us talking to each other. And then at the bottom of every protocol has a clinical instructions, which is us talking to the parent. And that's a great place to use text expander, obviously.
You read my mind.
So clinical, what kind of protocol is it that it's viewable on the portal?
What kind of what, I'm sorry?
You're talking about the clinical instructions component.
Yeah.
So that's...
So I don't think any of our protocols live on the portal. We try to keep things fairly locked down.
How do the parents see that clinical instructions? Is that just something that you print out?
Yeah, it's a visit summary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so it comes out on the visit summary.
Yeah, because we
actually on our patient portal, sorry, Jen, our patient portal configuration has the clinical instructions as one of the things that displays on the patient portal. But they don't get to see diagnoses. They don't get to see.
Oh no, that's what I want to do. Is I would love to have a clinical instruction area that they can view on the portal. So
yeah.
How?
Yeah. So what I'm sorry. So I keep saying clinical instructions. I meant to say aftercare instructions, because that's what our component is called. And so we created a component called aftercare instructions, and the aftercare instructions is the component. So in that pull down, the only thing on our portal configuration is aftercare instructions.
Very smart.
And that's a component that we created, and it is a generic note with multiple attributes. Yeah, that's it. So it's a generic note, and we put it on every one of our protocols at the bottom.
And how? I'm sorry. And so for it to be visible on the portal,
it's right there. So right there where Jan is showing us clinical instructions and then different options for what shows up on our portal configuration, the only thing that shows up is the aftercare instructions. And so we have a plan checklist, a plan generic note, but those are for the clinicians to talk to each other. And then the only thing that ends up showing up on the portal is the aftercare instructions, which is a separate text box under our plan.
Okay, you know, I have to get familiar with the patient portal configuration. I didn't realize that you could. Yeah,
I can send you a screenshot of one of our protocols.
That would be fabulous.
Right, but I think there's lots of different workflows to make that work, because it's kind of funny. I hear you talking about that, and I realize I use the plan generic check section to communicate to the patient. And so that goes into the portal, and that goes into the visit summary and everything. And then I have a text box at the end of every single protocol that's my medical decision-making section, essentially. And that's where I put all the sort of stuff I want to communicate to whoever else might be reading the chart clinically, and where I'm putting the thought process down. So that's the beauty of our EHR, is that there's so many different ways to be flexible about using all those components to accomplish the same thing.
Yeah.
Can I ask you just go back, like, can you just shut out that screen, the patient? Okay, under forms, I see where you have generate medical records, generate school nurse meds admin. What's that about?
Sure. So you can create by default within within your demographics configuration, if there are forms you always want to appear, and then they will have a generate button so that you don't have to click the drop down.
Ah, so that would be great for our school forms. So, all right, you can tell me afterwards how to do that.
Making note.
Yeah, because we have so many documents in our forms area, if we could just separate out.
Yeah, it's like any other component. You can put it right in right in your demographics.
Yeah, and if you don't want the demographics to get too clogged, this can also be done per protocol. So let's say it's the 4-year well, and you know they're only going to need the early childhood health assessment record Connecticut school form. That might be the button you have.
Great.
We don't have it in this one.
How dare.
Darn.
I love that. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, get me the information. I've got a weekend ahead. I have so many plans otherwise, but.
It's mostly gardening and parenting. Whee!
You're not going to go to that music festival, Jen?
No, I've got, let's see, it's between feeding the kids and cleaning up after the kids and then feeding them more.
Or cooking them things that they refuse to eat and then listening to them tell you how hungry they are 400,000 times an hour.
That's why it's easier when you have a teenager who's not awake at the same hours you're awake. So.
Oh boy. Yeah, I can't wait for sleep-in days. When does that start?
Yeah.
Earlier and earlier these days.
Right around the same time the staying up late worrying about where they are days start.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's a double-edged sword.
But now I know where they are. They're just, because they're not going anywhere.
It depends what age they start playing Fortnite and how late their friends stay on.
Yeah.
That's their father right now. So okay, I'm prepared.
You'll get there.
That's what adult men are. They're just big, overgrown teenagers.
Cornell.
I love it. Are you going to start doing a cappella though, Dr. Kaplan?
They will burn this video if I start singing.
I could probably bring David over and he would.
Oh.
I'll sing with him, but not alone.
Yeah, no, I think he's on his own separate webinar.
Goodness. All right. I mean, the last point on our list to cover really was just circling back and putting in a big plug for the PCC community, which is kind of like a super users roundtable 24/7. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate many of these voices jumping in and helping practices out, because I keep a very close eye on the community chatter, and it really warms my heart to see, you know, someone who's been with PCC for maybe 2 weeks receiving all this wonderful, robust advice and examples and, you know, thoughtful to-do lists from you all. It's really fantastic. So thank you for remaining active in the community.
This has been great. This is exactly what I wanted. It was your brains.
Yeah.
Especially
Thanks
in
for having us.
these weird times.
I know.
More time to be on the community and ask questions and answer questions.
A lot of fun.
Fabulous. All right. Stay well, all.
Great.
Good to see you.
Good to see everybody.
Next
Everybody's healthy and safe.
next year in Vermont.
In Vermont. We'll all get to go back to that restaurant you featured so beautifully in that photo. Farmhouse 2021.
Oh,
Because my go-to with my clients is single pebble.
think Pebble.
No. There's not just one we go to.
Yeah.
How many?
Many days and with Y and lots of food to play with.
I know. Now I have to. I'm in the. I have to go in and make my own.
Oh, this is not a UC.
A picture of this is most of us are in this picture from the farmhouse. So that's why
Yeah.
So funny. I was like, hey, there's Dr. Ken.
Well, thank you all so much. This has been super helpful. We're gonna try to do something similar during the evening next week for brainstorming ways that people are returning to safety. So workflows that you all have adopted or brainstormed or just come up with things to share, and tips and comparisons and crowdsourcing for returning to seeing patients safely in person, and or ways to adapt and just keep them at arm's length. So for everybody that's watching, please do keep an eye on the UC schedule. There were a couple late additions today, and there'll be a couple more by end of the week if I do my job, and hopefully there'll be something more that's of value to you guys like this was to us. Thank you. I hope we'll see you all there.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.